father gotta do? What?
It's your boy Japanese Tutor. We're back at it again with another lesson. We're going to do pawn structure today. If you have your book with you, we are on position 2 and position 3 in the book. And the first game is going to be by Short. So we're gonna have Nigel Short versus John Timon, as you can see in the on the chessboard over there. And thank you for the recent likes and subscriptions. I really appreciate that. If you want to get the book, the link is down below. But let's go ahead and read where we left off from yesterday. And we left off, let's see, here. Bam, bam, bam. Just gonna go ahead. And so a good pawn structure is one that allows you to carry desirable plans and tactics. A bad structure won't let you do that. It's as simple as that. Doubled, even tripled pawns are not always bad. True, they may be more vulnerable to capture, but it's what the pawn structure allows you to do that matters most. One of the most sensational games of the last 50 years is Short versus Timon in Tilburg 1991, and it featured a remarkable finish, but it was the pawn play that set the stage and teaches us the most. So we're gonna go ahead and go into how they play. So let's see how they play. Bam. So very common position. This is called the Alekhine or the Alekhine, or maybe I'm wrong in both ways. But very nice, and it's a modern opening. And there's no really notes. We're just gonna enjoy the game. If you guys want, you can pause, and I remove those of you on YouTube. You can pause every move and see what they're doing. But the focus is more on pawn structure, not on the opening. Okay, so they give Queen B4 an X-clam. So for those of you who do not know chess notation or annotation, an X-clam means that is a very strong move. Okay, so Queen B4. White can exploit the black king side if he can get his queen to H4, where it supports also bishop H6 and can threaten mate on H7 with knight G5. But Queen B4 interrupts that plan. Okay. If instead white retreats to Queen E2, black can complete development and pretty much be close to equality with B6 and bishop A6. White realized this and found another great move. So they stopped the plan of Queen H4, but white realized, okay, I need to get my queen to H4. And so this is like kind of the hidden moves that we see. Bishop C4, saying, okay, I need to get my queen over. This is my plan. Okay, so bishop C4. After bishop C4, knight B6, B3, double exclamation mark. The point is that knight captures C4, B captures C4 is actually a very favorable pawn structure. It allows white to begin his kingside attack undisturbed. Black cannot trade queens, and he does not have time to threaten the C4 pawn. After black met the A3 threat with rook E8, right? Because they're threatening also here. You have to move the rook or something. So knight captures C4, B captures C4, rook E8, and then play went on rook D1, queen over, and we're just gonna look at these moves. the point is we want to get the pieces all over. H4, H5, and this is a very, very famous game that you guys should know. White can't do anything. One, because of the pawn structure. The piece play, right? The pawns are very well placed. And so this is a very famous game for this one walk. So thanks to the pawn structure, this comes from the book. Thanks to the pawn structure, white's pieces dominate. Thanks to the dominating pieces, black has no counterplay. All it takes for white to win is add one more piece to the attack. And he did that with these moves, which is great. Rook c8, king over, and he just can't do anything. Doesn't matter, that piece doesn't matter. And he resigned. Right? King h7 does nothing because of queen captures g6. Okay? It's a very, very beautiful game, and one that I've shown a lot of my students. And this, as Chess Comment said, helped convert a static advantage, which is the pawn structure, and made it a dynamic advantage because they can do whatever. They can change the position no matter what, but we always have our advantage. So really, really, really nice game. So this is the unforgettable finish made possible by b3, right? That plan wouldn't have worked if we didn't have b3 on the board. Most amateurs, and this is from the book again, most amateurs don't think about which pawn structures they will play. The opening chooses for them. The variations they adopt in an e4 game will determine whether they end up in a Carroll formation, an open or close Sicilian structure, a Lopez, Pana variation, for example. But in some cases, the structure is in flux. Pass move 10, and you get to choose it. So kind of cool. And we're going to look at another game by Tomaszewski and Ganguly in Moscow 2007. Okay. So the game started off like this. Very common. This is the typical ready position. And I'll make the really bad joke, are you ready for the ready? You guys can use that. It's not copywritten yet. I might copyright it though. And again, we're going to look at pawn play and how to move the pawns. And so a lot of the time, people look at games and they're not really looking at pawn structure. They're like, oh yeah, they just played this, and obviously they won because of the bad pawn structure. They don't say, okay, they played this move, or this pawn structure is important because of X, Y, and Z. So I really challenge you to look at the pawn structures that are winning or that allow tactics, so that you can become better players. And we all can improve on that. Okay, so let's keep going. Very nice, very nice. Knight captures f5, queen captures 5. Okay, the position seems at least equal for black because his pieces have greater mobility and white's king side seems weak. But it isn't equal after this move. And so this move is like defining the defining moment of the position. E4. The structure gives white a strong plan of f2, f4, f5 directed at the weak points e6 and f7. Here and here. After black's bid for play with c4 was foiled by this. Rook c8, bishop c4, and black is clearly worse. Bishop e7, f4, queen c7, and now the rook really doesn't belong here anymore, right? Because we can't attack. Our pawn structure is telling us that we need to play here. This is our plan. This doesn't make sense because we open up lines. right? So now where does the rook actually make sense? On f1. If bishop f6, which is a total blunder, f5. And so the reason that he did that was because he didn't want to capture, which I guess doesn't make sense, but whatever. So anyways, f4, e5. This is a losing position. Losing because the structure allows white to overload the king with pieces. The trend continued with bishop e3, queen e7, h4 castles, rook f2, king h8, rook af1, getting all the pieces to attack the king side. So if we can see here we have a lot of plans and ideas. Rook g2, and we don't care about this. Do we care about this? Maybe. So seeing how hopeless his chances would be after queen h5 and g3, g4, g5, black played rook d4, and we're like, okay, we don't really care about this, but this is really strong, so let's get him out of here. Queen over, because the plan is now simple. Just overload white with pieces. Okay. So h5 and queen h6 and g5. And then they played h captures g5. And if bishop captures g5, then f6 is actually the very strong move. Does everybody see that? And it's only because the pawn structure allowed us to do that, right? So just take a minute and see how beautiful this is. And if you're on YouTube, please pause it now and just see how f6 is such a great move. And so for those of you saying, hey, this is not a good move, this sucks. Let's say if bishop captures here, f captures e7, rook has to move somewhere, right? And now we're just winning. Rook captures f7. You know, let's say bishop g7, g5, and the king can't step over, right, to help. Let's say bishop c8, g6, threatening mate, h6 or h5. Say h6, saying, hey, I don't want to take. Rook h2, threatening mate again. Rook captures here, mate. If bishop e6, trying to stop the mate, nothing happens. And then they have to give up all their pieces. If they don't, takes, checkmate. If they don't take, they step over, double check and mate. Okay. So most pawn structures are more familiar than these three examples. Masters handle them better than amateurs do because they know typical ways to exploit the structures and to favorably change them. A structure may change quickly and violently in the course of a few moves. And we will go through that next game in the next episode, so please stay tuned for that. And we're going to see how to exploit now pawn structures. So we've seen now why pawn structures are good. Now we're going to see actually how to play against different pawn structures. So that's it for everything. Again, thank you so much for the likes and the subscriptions recently. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you in the next one.